continuing through Matthew, we just finished last week with Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. And if you kind of remember, some of the things that we talked about last week were chapter 7, verse 12 is, therefore, whatever you want men to do to you, do also to them, for this is the law and the prophets. So love the Lord your God by your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Like, and then you look at it, and he starts talking about build upon the rock, rather than the sand, which all of us in Florida, we could probably learn a few things there. Build on sand, right? And so we built on the rock, and then that is that principle. That building on the rock is loving the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and loving your neighbor as yourself. Like that. Or as Glenn said last week, the great Shema, right? And so all that stuff. So so that's what's going on. And the reason why I'm saying those things is that chapter 8 is an outcropping of these previous ideas. And so where I want your mind to go, a lot of times we're just like, oh, well, I'm just reading this. Remember what came before it. Our Bible writers here, by the Spirit and the inspiration and all those things, are writing literature. Like, they're not writing these encyclopedia entries and all that stuff. They're writing literature about what is happening. They're trying to give us eyes to see Jesus and what he does. So as we go into here, remember what Jesus had said in the Sermon on the Mount, and how we flew up there as we go into chapter 8. And I think we're going to read the whole thing. Yeah, we'll read the whole chapter. And so in your mind, connect it to what has happened before. Okay, so I got the wrong mouse in my hand. Look at that. So let's go to this screen here. To right here. This. Okay. And then here we go, chapter 8. Pop up the video. Well, of course it doesn't work right away.
When he had come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. And behold, a leper came and worshipped him.
Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean.
Then Jesus put out his hand and touched him.
I am willing. Be cleansed.
Immediately, his leprosy was cleansed.
See that you tell no one, but go your way. Show yourself to the priest and offer the gift that Moses commanded as a testimony to them.
Now when Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him, pleading with him.
Lord, my servant is lying at home, paralyzed, dreadfully tormented.
I will come and heal him.
Lord, I am not worthy that you should come under my roof. But only speak a word, and my servant will be healed. For I also am a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to this one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes. And to my servant, do this, and he does it.
When Jesus heard it, he marveled, and said to those who followed,
Assuredly, I say to you, I have not found such great faith, not even in Israel. And I say to you that many will come from east and west, and sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the sons of the kingdom will be cast out into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Then Jesus said to the centurion,
Go your way, and as you have believed, so let it be done for you.
And his servant was healed that same hour. Now when Jesus had come into Peter's house, he saw his wife's mother lying sick with a fever. So he touched her hand, and the fever left her. And she arose and served them. When evening had come, they brought to him many who were demon-possessed. And he cast out the spirits with a word, and healed all who were sick, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet.
He himself took our infirmities and bore our sicknesses.
And when Jesus saw great multitudes about him, he gave a command to depart to the other side. Then a certain scribe came and said to him,
Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go.
Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head.
Then another of his disciples said to him,
Lord, let me first go and bury my father.
Follow me, and let the dead bury their own dead.
Now when he got into a boat, his disciples followed him. And suddenly a great tempest arose on the sea, so that the boat was covered with the waves. But he was asleep. Then his disciples came to him and awoke him.
Lord, save us. We perish.
Why are you fearful, O you of little faith?
Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea. And there was a great calm. So the men marveled.
Who can this be, that even the winds and the sea obey him?
When he had come to the other side, to the country of the Gergesenes, there met him 2 demon-possessed men, coming out of the tombs, exceedingly fierce, so that no one could pass that way. And suddenly they cried out,
What have we to do with you, Jesus, you Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?
Now a good way off from them, there was a herd of many swine feeding. So the demons begged him,
If you cast us out, permit us to go away into the herd of swine.
Go.
So when they had come out, they went into the herd of swine. And suddenly the whole herd of swine ran violently down the steep place into the sea and perished in the water. Then those who kept them fled, and they went away into the city and told everything, including what had happened to the demon-possessed men. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus. And when they saw him, they begged him to depart from their region.
Okay. Fun times had by all. Are good. And so let's there we go. There we go. So all right. What did you hear? And something I want you to be thinking about as we talk about all of this is how is this all related? So all right, what stood out to you? What'd you think was interesting?
I'm always struck when there's interaction with Rome.
When there's interaction with Rome?
In this case, a centurial believes.
Yes.
Which is an extraordinary event.
It is. It is. The centurion believing. What makes it extraordinary?
He's a Gentile. He's a Roman. His job is to perhaps persecute the Jews.
Yeah. At least be an occupying force.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet Jesus' reputation precedes him.
Mm-hmm.
And this centurion has heard and believes.
Yeah.
And believes so intently that he understands merely Jesus' word is enough.
Yeah. 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 There's a deep faith going on. Yeah. Like that's, and that, he's like, some say come and go and like all that stuff. and that he's saying that Jesus' words that you're powerful enough to do whatever. You don't even need to come. You just say, which is great. And at the end of this little section, we see that there is a juxtaposition that is offered. Did anyone catch that? At the end of the centurion thing and what Jesus says.
Truly, I tell you, if no one in Israel had not found such faith.
And no one in Israel ever found such faith. And then also verse 12, right? But the sons of the kingdom will be cast out into darkness and will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Like it's all connected there. Like this is saying something big, that it is Israel. Like, so this is something, to me at least, sounds very much like the prophets. Like when the prophets are saying that your sacrifices are worthless, like your sacrifices are worthless. Like God needs your heart type of idea. Like it's over there, and it's this idea that they're just going through the motions, going through all of a sudden, like it's like we're just these people, and in here, all of a sudden we see that this glimmer of God being for the Gentiles, God, and so much more than that, that God is also for the occupying force. Like that's that centurion. Like that is cataclysmic. And if someone said something like that around certain people today, they'd want to kill them too. Like that. That's like that. It's like that. Jesus is like they viewed Rome as the same as like in the Old Testament how they viewed Babylon and in Greece after that. Like it's just these occupying force of evil that are in there, and so any kind of righteousness being ascribed to these guys is a megaphone. Like it's kind of wild. So I don't know. Does anyone have any thoughts?
If I can just interrupt this. It's apparently in pork, and we start off with Jesus abiding the tax collector.
Yeah.
And now he's abiding the person for whom the tax collector works.
Yeah. You're definitely seeing that. And you're also seeing this, like, this ruling religious class, the Pharisees and the Sadducees for that matter. Like that's like, you can pretty much tell that he's speaking against them here. So
Couldn't you even say that about the leper? Because Jesus, he's an unclean Israelite, a Jew, and Jesus touches him.
thank you for getting us to the leper. Yeah.
Before he heals him, he touches him.
Yeah. And that's one of my favorite stories in the Bible, is because he touches him before he heals him. And because that, they believed then, and rightly, like leprosy is different now than it was back then, but highly contagious disease. And here Jesus touches this man, and I've always thought about how much healing being that touch. And think about what's being said, that's the first thing that's written after all this stuff on the Sermon on the Mount, that we've kind of established what the foundation is, that foundation on the rock, what it is, how it's been going, like all that stuff. And we see Jesus is putting it to action right away. Like this one that's unclean, like he's right there, providing foundation for him.
It's interesting. He also tells him not to tell anyone.
Yeah. I love
for his own safety with the Pharisees.
Yeah.
Like,
you're right.
I still don't know what to do with why he tells him not to tell. Like that's because
his safety.
the leper's safety is who I thought, like, well, then they would say, well, then you're not really clean or whatever,
It's possible that Jesus just didn't want his ministry to be all about healing the sick. There's more to it. It's more than just the physically sick. I don't know. He also tells them to give an offering as a testimony to them, which I assume must be the priests. I don't know who them is.
Yeah.
Chris, I have another viewpoint on the Rome.
Yeah.
Mentioned. If you remember, the Ptolemies and the Seleucids were constantly battling right over Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, in 31 BC, when the Battle of Actium occurred, Rome took over everything. Mm-hmm. And that was the Pax Romana, the peace.
Yeah.
So, and also Jesus referenced also when they came to him saying, what about Pilate? He just killed those that were coming into the temple to worship. Mm-hmm. And Jesus said, well, not only that, the 18 that died when the tower fell on them in Siloam? Mm-hmm. He said, it doesn't matter. All that matters is if you repent or not.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it's the Lord says, I don't care about these nations that are in control. And that's why I yield the Centurions.
Yeah. 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 And I think that's adding color to all of that. Because there's all these, like, Jesus exists, and Matthew writing this exists in this time frame. And it helps to put yourself in this time frame as best as you can. We're never able to fully, but to remember all these things going forward. There's a lot of tension in all of this, and like Glenn saying that, like, the Lord doesn't care about all these nations. Yeah, like, I think that's the point. Yeah, like that's the point there. So you have the leper being healed, and then you have this centurion, an outsider, who shows this unbelievable faith, a faith that it seems like Israel hasn't been willing to show, and that's that, and that he is healed. So what else is going on? What else stood out to you?
Very quick, about the figs.
Yeah.
I thought the Jews don't eat pork.
They don't.
Who's keeping the figs?
Well, I think they're so. Okay, so
Is he in Samaria at the time?
So he is. So it's the Gerasenes or the Gergesenes. So, all right. Here's the thing with that. I don't know where this is. If someone wants to look it up, in Mark, that I don't like. Each one is telling their own story. Mark makes a point definitively that this happens outside of Galilee. It's in a Gentile region, and so that's the. Is that the case going with this one too? Because it would make sense if it was. Yeah. So like it's similar place. So yeah, it's on the
southeastern Sea of Galilee.
Yeah, southeast of the Sea of Galilee. So they're going over. So it's probably a Gentile region. Matthew uses a different name for it than Mark does. And so Matthew doesn't put it as far away as Mark does. And
and it says
he puts it up here. The other one.
Okay. Yeah.
So one puts it there and one puts it there.
Yeah.
But it could be just a
and it was 2 men and 1 man. Everyone else has 1 demon possessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. 2 demon possessed men.
Well, it could be a different.
And so, so like this, and the storm definitely rhymes. And also, like, if you're wandering around the countryside going back and forth, you're going to have multiple accounts, multiple versions of stories. Very easily, something similar could happen multiple times. Like that's like the genius of like all this algorithm stuff on the internet. Like all the jokes that you hear. I don't know if you guys hear this stuff, but they're always listening to you on your phone and all that stuff. Listening to you on your phone takes a lot of like just processing ability to constantly be serving that for ads and all that stuff. Most likely, all your previous activity has gotten you to the place where you're going to do what you're going to do now. That's just the algorithm is able to predict your future because that's just the way it goes. So what I'm saying, the reason why I say that is it's very easily that this could happen multiple times and probably did in Gentile regions.
You talk about the regions. Your message that you gave Sunday.
Yeah.
About Nicodemus chapter 7 and John.
Yeah.
About saying no prophet has ever come from Galilee.
Yeah.
Well, Jonah came from Galilee.
Yeah.
From Gath Heifer.
Yeah.
And I mean, they don't have their own scripture.
They're all just blind to every like that, you know.
And didn't you say once when we were studying that the tradition that these might not be chronological?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they all happen, but Matthew's using them as a device to show like Jesus' authority.
That is something that I believe about, especially the gospel writers, that they are putting together these stories to give you a picture of Jesus. That's what I mean when I say this is literature and not an encyclopedia entry.
Yeah.
Like they're moving a progression, getting that. That's why I'm like Matthew has these things happening right after all the preaching on the mountain for a reason. And I think you start seeing the rubber meets the road. You know, you have the healing of the leper, showing very kindness to him, like the outsider. You have the story about Peter's mother-in-law, like being healed. It's like 2 verses. What a weird little story. I don't know what to do with that. Like, but maybe it's like Peter's kind of an outsider, but an insider too. Like all these people are being healed. The evening comes and the guy with demons, they're cast out of him. And they quote Isaiah to be about it. It's all these people receiving healing in all of this stuff. Like it's just all of a sudden the rubber is meeting the road, just boom, 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 boom. And that's one thing that sticks out with the Gospels to me is they are so physical. Like they are like it's touching this, hugging that, like all this stuff. And because it's really easy for us, it's like, well, I just like the teachings of Jesus or something like that. And the Gospels really bend into the physicalness of what Jesus did and all of that. I mean, you really see that in the Passion narratives and all 4 of them. Like it basically abandons teaching and passion and just goes straight physical.
What do you think this critic? Because I'm thinking, I don't know what Peter's wife would say about all this.
Yeah.
Peter, he loves to get good night.
Causing problems in Bible study. You're causing problems. So we'll come back to the demon-possessed man here in a second because we'll get to it. We have this section that, in my heading, it's verse 18 through 22. My heading is called the cost of discipleship. Did anyone have any thoughts about this? That's the part where it's 2 different people come and they're like, teacher, I'll follow you. And he's like, yeah, got no home, And then he's like, well, let me go bury my father. It's like, let the dead bury their own death. What do you guys think about this? It's a weird sort of person.
Like, the disposition of the dead.
Yeah.
Or the dismissal of the disposition of the dead. So
when I read too in Jewish rules, like burying your father according to Jewish tradition was the most important thing. Like you could drop everything if your father died.
Okay. Yeah.
You could be going to, okay, my father died because they had to bury him within a day. I think. Yeah.
Embalming.
Yeah. So anyway, so it's saying something that to follow Jesus has to be more important than even the most important human thing, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Here we go. Expert.
Ed, did you want to say something?
ELCA Bible heads that is would be followers of Jesus.
Would be followers.
Jesus.
Okay.
Really, I agree. Takes the death of your father, even now, today. You've got to be there for the funeral. Yeah. You've got to help your mother arrange that. To let the dead bury the dead,
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, very uncomfortable for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shows us that they important.
Yeah. Lee, what?
Yes, priorities.
Priorities?
Yeah, the dead will take care of the dead. You're so worried about ritualistically burying this man that you're ignoring everything else you're seeing around you. That's the do unto others. Why are you worrying about burying the dead when the starving is before you?
Yeah.
He's placing himself first above Jesus' discipleship.
Yeah.
He's placing his own needs to what you just said. Well, in my notes, it says, let the spiritually dead bury the physically dead.
Let's see.
In Luke chapter 14, verses 15 to 24, it talks about all the excuses people have
Right.
to not follow him. Okay, one after another. And this is the premium of all of them, and it's not acceptable.
None.
Martha, remember her? When she said, I need help here. And he says, Martha, she chose the better part.
Leave the dishes.
Yeah. And so that's one thing that I'm looking at the note here that it seems to be claiming. And I'm trying to remember right now of kind of what I've heard in the past about this, because I remember hearing something good about it, but it's not so much about like the dead there, but it's making excuse type of thing. That's kind of what you're getting at, like that's and that's kind of what they're saying here, is that in some other wordings of this, it makes it kind of seem that it's not so much my father has died, but that let me wait for my father to die, and then I can follow you, type of thing. So I don't know, but it kind of seems like there's a bunch of like just excuses being done. So
Could it be too, like, because there's the one story where Jesus tells the man wants to be the disciple. What is it? And Jesus says, no, go home.
Yeah.
And like, go there.
The rich young ruler.
No, it was a quick one.
That was a good one.
Where it is, but he professed his faith, and he said, and Jesus said, no, rather than go home. And what's that story? Yeah, do you remember? Yeah, I don't know where it is. But is he just saying, not everyone's cut out to be my physical disciples right now? This is the cost.
Mm-hmm.
This is the cost. Because just like it says, where some are teachers, some are, encouraged or self-taught. So the disciples being tested. These are tests that like some other in Luke, it says the other one was home, say goodbye to everybody at home. It's also interesting to me that this follows Jesus' choice to go to Peter's house and heal Peter's mother-in-law. And Peter is specifically referenced, but this other individual is just noted as a disciple.
Okay.
So maybe he's testing to see if the disciple is testing to see if he is, and that here again, this can all be mumble jumble around. But the way it reads here, it's like 15 X is.
I think that's Mark 5, 18 through 20. That's what you're looking for.
That's kind of.
I think that's what it is. The demon-possessed man begged to go with him. Jesus did not let him, but said, go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you,
Yeah.
how he has had mercy on you. So the man went away and began to tell them, to Capitalists, how much Jesus had done for him. And all the people were amazed. Remember, amazed language in Mark is language of the resurrection. And so that's
This job is to go home.
yeah, his job was to go home. So that's what we're talking about. I think what you're seeing here also, and also something to remember as we go into the next story here is like it's difficult, like these followers aren't there, but it's also important to remember what the Gospels are doing. Oftentimes the Gospels are being kind of cheeky and setting us up to the point where we go, I'm not sure anything. I'm not sure I can either. And usually when we finally get to that point is right when Jesus gets arrested and goes in. And we end up finding out is that what Jesus does is like opens up, we find out that he is the way, and that his death and resurrection are far, far away. And it's not that we in our ability to follow are not the way type of thing. But like he says, true things there. And this is why I say that is the very next story is about the wind and waves. That there's suddenly all this great water comes over and Jesus is asleep on a cushion. I don't think it's his cushion in this one. That's another one. But he's asleep and the disciples are like, why are you sleeping? Don't you know we're going to die? Like you need to be worried with the rest of us, Jesus. And he rebukes them. He's like, you guys don't have, you talk a big game with this faith stuff here, but you don't have it. And he rebuked the winds and the waves, everything gets calm, and they're like, oh,
Pastor,
yeah.
that one chapter always bothered me.
Which chapter?
Jesus calms the storm.
Yeah.
They wake him up and they say, save us.
Yeah.
And then they say, who is this guy that could do this? Well, what are they expecting him to do? Why, I have to assume that you're able to do something if I'm asking you. So why would you then be surprised and say, who is this guy? The wind and the rain response to his command.
I in times in questions like that, I often am reminded of when dogs catch squirrels and they don't know what to do with it. Their entire existence was getting Sparky. That's what we always call her, squirrels in our yard. No, Skippy. Skippy, that's what it was. Skippy. And when the dog would finally catch the squirrel, and it's like, because it kind of gives a sense that it was so much of a bigger thing that happened than just like I'm sure they thought that Jesus would like get his muscles out, like bring everything back in for a second, but everything just goes calm. And that would be disconcerting to see something like that in person. I think that's some of it, but I think that is connected to that statement before is that these guys have realized that the dead can bury their own dead. These guys have realized that foxes have holes and birds have nests, but the Son of Man doesn't have anywhere. These guys know that, and yet they still don't have faith, right? These two are connected here. And what we see really kind of before that is that the centurion has faith, that's, and then because the centurion, think about Jesus just with his words calmed the sea, just like he healed the centurion's daughter. The disciples, it seems like they don't think that Jesus was able to just do that.
Yeah.
like that. And so they're not even there. And then you get to this demon possessed man. And so let's talk about that for a little bit. Why do the people want Jesus to go away from their region? Why do you think?
Big perverts.
Okay, Tony. like that. Like that. Like this. Like it doesn't say that here, but most likely that's what's going on. And that he all of a sudden messes with their ability to make money and all that stuff. And they're like, we can't control you here. Like, you need to go away. Like that's if this happens again, we're gonna have to take out another line of credit. Like, there's just that whole thing. It's so what is that story telling you here? What is that story telling you that you think is interesting? And what about the demon-possessed men that are here? There's a lot of interesting details in that. So we talked earlier about how that most likely is in a Gentile region. So if you think about how the geography works, they're crossing the Sea of Galilee, and they're going to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, and there's Gentiles over there. And so, like on the other side,
it wasn't the people that wanted him to go away; it was the demons.
The demons didn't want to. Oh, and that's what's
Just get
Not the people.
that's not what I read.
Initially, you mean?
Initially.
The other side, two demonics coming to meet him. So, what have you to do with us, Son of God?
Yeah.
You come to torment us.
Okay, yeah, there's the beginning.
No, they're not people.
When they went into the city, so the two guys, what we're talking about is at the very end of the story.
Yeah.
When the two men, they went into the city and told everything.
And the whole town went out to meet them. And
let's say, including what happened to the demon-possessed men. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus. And when they saw him, they begged him to depart. Like, please leave.
Pastor,
Yeah.
that area was listed as a commercial area.
Okay.
So if they had the pigs, they're probably selling them, etc. So if Christ is coming in and all the pigs are running off the cliff, they're killing their livelihood.
Yep.
Okay.
So it'd be normal for them to say, "Get out of here! You're ruining us."
we don't like you anymore, type of thing. So you see that and this is such a weird story. I have this story that it makes sense at Mark, but I haven't made sense of it why it's here in Matthew yet.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Pam.
It's back on the what the apostles out in the sea with the storm, and I had this put to me some time ago, kind of like a type of deeper meaning. It's like, okay, we know the story, but then the point was supposed to be that the storms coming are like the body of Christ, and if Christ isn't there, can the apostles, deal with how they're supposed to deal with healing people, helping people, turning people to the gospel? And I don't know, if that makes sense or if, that could be such a meaning. The point was for them to, you're going to have to do some of this, guys, when it comes down to it, when I'm not here.
Okay. I think I see the connection that's being made there, like where we're still continuing going forward from that the foxes have holes and they let the dead bury their own dead. Like that you guys are gonna have to have enough faith basically to see this through as well. Like, okay, I see what's going on there. And okay. And
who are the demons?
Who are the demons in the
It's an issue I've struggled with for years, trying to figure out the difference between fallen angels and demons. What is your position on that?
And what is my position? Yeah, you represent.
Don't see anything.
So like, I don't think I look at it too deeply. I kind of try to let what's going on. That there's definitely there's definitely less details. It's interesting. There's two men. I think there's something about they're hanging out with because they're in the tombs in this one too, right? Yeah. So they're and so they're making it to where they're all by themselves too. So these demons, they're exceedingly fierce, so that no one can even pass that way. And they cry out, saying what Ed said a little bit ago. We know who you are. You're Jesus, the Son of God. Have you come to torment us before the time? Which is interesting. All right, so if we look at this as literature, I'm not going to have a good question for it. I have a good answer for your question, but just go ahead and let you know. We'll see what we can flesh out here. So, but if you look if you allow this to be literature, there's foreshadowing going on here. Okay, and I think there's foreshadowing going on this whole time, and that could be what the purpose of this is that, like, yeah, okay, all right, let's have fun with this. So we see that Jesus has healed these people, the leper, the centurion servant, an outsider, even Peter's mother, right? Like he heals them all, and these demon-possessed people. It's once the evening happened after the Sabbath there. And then we kind of go into this like almost like a yin to the yang type of idea where like Jesus is doing all this healing of people who aren't clean and all that stuff. Then we have this this is kind of what it looks like to follow. This is what it looks like to be a part of here. And we see that these people kind of on the outside, they're like, as soon as it gets difficult at all, they're not really there. You get people who have survived in the difficulty and they're not even there. And then now you have like supreme difficulty. Guys that are consumed with evil. And they're so consumed with evil that people can't even get anywhere near it. Right? Like the people tried to go along the road, they couldn't even pass that way. These guys are so filled with evil. And the evil then goes into reveals the plot. And that we're seeing this revelation of the plot all along here, that they're like, have you really come to torment us before the time? Like that's, and is he talking about the cross there? And that's what this is all talking about. That Jesus is bringing in, yes, even the centurions and the lepers and all of that, but it's going to be hard to follow him, but he's going to bring you in and he's going to save you even from the storms. And he even saves these guys who are Gentiles from the pain of that evil over them. And it is that a revelation of the kind of the cross. And can I get a mini version of the whole plot here is that Jesus comes with these healings and all that stuff, and he comes and he even heals us in our own deep seated of sin and disgrace. And if you want to keep going on that, although I got to make sure I don't go into John.
Pastor?
Yeah.
But isn't it also saying, even though Christ will be doing all this, there will still be those who beg him to leave. They don't want any part of him.
Well, all right. So what you just said there is why I said I want to make sure I don't go too deep into John.
Sorry.
Because that sounds like the Pharisees. And that ruling religious class that kills Jesus. That they're like, we want nothing to do with these healings. We want nothing to do with the good that we saw. We would rather throw these guys away and still do what we want to do. rather than us take any kind of L and have these guys back in their right mind. And back from the evil side. That's what you're saying, right, Lee? Yeah. Like that's so when it comes to, and I wonder if the demons here, to answer Glenn's question, because I'm so knowledgeable in these ways, to answer Glenn's question, if that's true, and that's what's going on, what I just said, that the demon possession is being compared to the heinous evil that's inside of us all, how none of us can measure up. And that it's Jesus doing the measuring up for us, like it is saving on the cross and resurrection type of thing. Because I don't know if that whole thing about fallen angels and demon possession is playing in here. I don't know, but I do know that in this story right now, demon possession is really bad, and it's almost like the height of evil winning, and yet doesn't win the day. Yet these people can't see that.
In the NIV Study Bible, it says those demons are connected with Satan.
Yeah,
he's the one that's put these side bones out, and they can go in anybody and destroy them.
Yeah.
This morning. And so do you think it's just this whole chapter, it's just kind of like building up to that? Like, so he heals the one man, the leper, Jewish guy. Then he does the centurion welcoming the rest of the world into the kingdom of heaven, kind of. And then he heals a lot of people. But then the Isaiah quote, he took our illness and bore our diseases. And then they come back, this is the cost of it, for Jesus.
Yeah.
And then he calms a storm, which is creation. And then he faces Satan.
Yeah.
He is authority over all of it.
Oh.
Do you think all these things happened at once? I mean, this is a 3.5 year period you're looking at. That they might have been from different times.
I've become pretty firm on. I don't know if all these things happened at once, but Matthew has collected these stories and put them in this order to say something that he knows about Jesus and how Jesus acts, and how Jesus saves. Like that's like that's I've become pretty firm on that's what these are doing, just because. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying, because I'm going to say something that someone could run with and make it bad for me. So sometimes that means you. Sometimes works of fiction can say something more true than like just finding all the facts about something. So like that's your fiction book. I think that's its intention, right?
Absolutely.
It's, even though it's a work of fiction, you're trying to say something more true than if you just laid out all the stuff, right?
And I don't understand.
That's something that I believe. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying these are all works of fiction, but I am saying that Matthew has, by the Spirit, I believe all this is inspired, just like all of my sermons. He's putting this together to say something true about Jesus, and I think Tracy may be on to something there, that it's doing these different levels of like all these people are being saved, even though they're incapable of doing it themselves, and that's in these different levels that it's happening, and it kind of continues on. We don't have time to read it now, but you look at the next story, and I'm just looking at headings at the beginning of 9 as Jesus heals the paralytic man. And then you have the calling of Matthew, like right after it. You know, like that's, you have, which that's the calling of Matthew is incredibly important here because Matthew is Jewish, good Jewish boy. He's got a Jewish last name, you know, Levi. like that's, for those of you who don't know, Levi is a shortened version of Levite. Like anyone that would be reading this with good first century Jewish heritage would be reading this, and he would see this name as Levi. They'd be like, ooh,
Rabbi's son.
Yeah, like it's like, ooh, you fell off the one. So you know, that's what's going on there, and so like we're getting to all of those points here, and I think that's a good way of kind of looking at all of this, because this all together is telling us true things about Jesus, and the way that this is all assembled is telling us a story about who Jesus is and how we should view the Son of God, and so yeah. I think that's it. Anyone have anything else? Okay, then before we're done here.
Like I got to have school. Why not? So you know, the problem with the demons on it. So we shouldn't really believe in exorcism.
No, I don't think that's what it's saying.
After this.
No. Like that's no. I think it's like. So like demon possession, exorcism, and stuff like that, we don't see it a lot here. I think there's various reasons for that. If you go into other parts of the world, like those, like you spend any time with anyone that spent like stuff in other parts of the world, especially like more rural and poorer areas, like I don't care who they are, like they're like no demon possession trip. Like they're just dogmatic about it. And it's interesting how it's always those people that spend time in those situations. And so like that's like that they're just dogmatic about it. So I wouldn't be closed off to that idea. Like over there. Like there's so that's kind of where I am with it. You know, I'm living off of the accounts of others, and so like that's I wouldn't say that there's no exorcism stuff. And also, since we talked about exorcisms, we'll have a couple of minutes of fun. Many of you know this already, but you know the story of The Exorcist, right? You guys, does anyone know where I'm going with this? No? Okay, cool. So that story, it was based off of a true story, right? That movie, that book, it's all based off a true story. That family was LCMS Lutheran. And they first took the boy, it was a boy, it wasn't a girl. They first took the boy to the seminary in St. Louis. And they couldn't exorcise the demons out of him. And so then they went to the Catholic Church. All that stuff. That's things of legend that boarding a seminary in St. Louis. There's always like creepy rooms on campus, and like I bet this is where it happened. That's all those things. But that's all just stories and all that stuff. But that's true. It's in the records of the seminary and all that stuff. All this stuff happened. So it's like you get. And I kind of think there are odd reasons that we don't really see it around in the advance.
In the ministry I'm involved with drug addicts and such, I've actually seen a woman possessed and us all praying around her. And
Right.
experience.
Yes, yeah. So like that's so it's so yeah, I wouldn't discount it. I wouldn't discount it because there's too many. I have too many friends, especially those that have done ministries in other areas, that have I've heard too many stories about things, and these people, we're not. They're like, you guys know how I feel about dingbats in the church, right? Like that's like I don't. There's some people that are they should not be listened to, right? And these people are typically ones that are not that, and yet I hear they talk about it. And so that being said, listen to what Glenn said. Like, you simply prayed over them.
Okay.
In Jesus' name, laying of hands.
And it took a long time. I mean, she was spouting off things you wouldn't even ever believe you could hear.
Yeah.
And anger and face and eyes, the whole thing. It was incredible. I'll never forget it.
And so that's important for remembrance, because all of a sudden we talk about demon possession, it can get you get scared, but evil has no home. Evil has no home. And we encounter evil in many different ways, in so many different things, and it can look differently to different people. And it's important to remember that evil has no hold. And to get back to our chapter 8 today, I think that's what it's about. Is that no matter what's going, even with these guys that are filled with demons, evil has no hold, and we're seeing delusions to the cross coming forward, I think. And that's good. That's good. And so yeah, we'll end right there. That seemed like a good little ending. It's a weird little lesson today. That's fun, though. And so, for everyone watching on YouTube, the pre-recorded stuff, thanks for joining us.